Welcome, 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 all Pacha people. Thank you for joining us. We're here in our sheltering in home or healthy homestay, as wonderful Rev D calls it, which is our wonderful ally who was on the last call. And do you want to say anything?
Well, I'll just say welcome. Hello to everybody also all over the world. It's great to actually see everybody on one screen or many screens behind us now. So welcome. Thank you.
And for those of you who are in other time zones than is daytime, thank you for getting up or staying up. We have the opportunity today to hear from Anita Sanchez and Andrew Hewitt. And so we're really looking forward to that conversation. Let me begin by just asking you all to mute yourself if you're, well, actually we have the power to mute you. So you are muted, but we will hear from you later in the call. So the order of this is I'll do a little opening sacred space, a meditation. Then I'll share the purpose of what we're doing here. And then we'll have a few words from Bill and myself, and then we'll begin with Anita. And then we'll hear from Andrew, and then we'll hear from all of you. So thank you so much for joining us. There's nothing as important, I think, right now than coming together in community, deepening our relatedness, knowing we can rely on each other, counting on the space and grace of the Pachamama Alliance as a community of people who are awake, who are up to something, who understand that this disruption, as painful and scary and grave and serious as it is, may be what we all, not just us, but the human community needed to interrupt, to stop the music and take a deep look at who we are and where we're going as a species. So I'm going to begin with opening sacred space with a meditation, the words of our colleague and Indigenous partner. I've read this before, but it bears repeating, from Archon Lishwala. So please drop into your chair, your body, your breath, and close your eyes. And notice the power, presence, and beauty of being home. Often we long for the opportunity to go home, to be home, to find home. The word ecology and the word economy comes from the Greek word for home, eco. And we've all been mandated, encouraged, required to stay home, something that many of us have longed for all our lives, to find our way home. Appreciate the bounty, the blessing, the grace, the space, the safety of wherever you are that you're now calling home. And also the home of your spirit in this body as it breathes you, as it breathes in community, as it breathes out fear, as it breathes in connectivity, as it breathes out the lie of separation, as it breathes in safety, as it breathes out anxiety. Allow this temple, this home, this physical body to breathe you into this warm, beautiful space of our community. And as you follow your breath, listen to the words of Archon Lishwala, our friend and colleague. In a deep, primordial part of ourselves, many of us have been waiting for something like this to happen. someone or something powerful and sacred had to intervene in order to stop the destruction of the sources of life. The earth herself has now done so. Viruses are made by the earth. They are part of who we are. And now as humanity, we are forced to make the sacrifice we could not make from our own will. Painfully now, the sacrifice goes beyond letting go of our comfort and the habits that led to an excessive consumption of goods. Not only the basic needs, but goods that we consume in excess for mere pleasure, more comfort, more entertainment. Unfortunately, now there is also a sacrifice of human lives. With deep compassion for those who are suffering, I have to say that the earth is still being kind and gentle, that her way of defending herself could be much worse. Our mother must be suffering more than anyone while she is disappointed in us for not having changed when we could have, when there was still time to do it, for us to do it on our own. Our mother, Pachamama, would not be doing what she's doing right now unless there was time to change. The capacity that nature has to regenerate is extraordinary, extremely powerful, and in some cases, surprisingly fast. But we have to listen. Now is the time to listen. The earth is telling us that the moment for change is now. So let's take 3 breaths together, in and out, in and out, in and out. And open your eyes and behold your Pacha community. So as you all know now, these Monday calls are designed to empower us all to be in communication with each other, to empower ourselves to deepen our capacity for resilience, and to keep our hearts and minds open to possibility as we navigate ourselves through these very, very challenging and unprecedented times. And I'll just say that there's as we begin in San Francisco, and it might be different where you are, the 4th week of sheltering in home, which is a kind of, another way of talking about it from our friend John Powell at Berkeley, is social solidarity and spatial separation. Social solidarity and spatial separation, rather than social distancing, spatial separation, but social solidarity. And I'll just say that I notice when we're outside walking near our home, where we go out, try to go out twice a day, people are spatially separated, but socially in solidarity, in coherence. We do our best, I do my best to say hello, good morning, good afternoon to everyone, even though I'm 6 feet away from them. So we stay socially connected and spatially separated. And there's a power in all of this that I know we all feel, as well as a grave concern and fear and loss and grieving. So I'm going to just give Bill a chance to say a few things, and then we'll hear from our board members. We've chosen these 2 Pachamama board members to share with us today, and we'll introduce them in a moment a little bit more deeply.
Thanks. Yeah, when Lynn, when she just mentioned, let's see, we're going into our 4th week. What struck me is, and what I see for myself, and I think starting to show up for people around, is a certain disconnection now, or a certain freedom or distance is emerging between old habits and just ways of thinking that this is the way the world ought to be. So habits and addictions, or maybe we're getting some distance from, and what happens with that is the opportunity to see more clearly what's possible. And that's what I think we're trying to do with these calls and the conversations that they're spurring is to show us ways to become more free of habits and addictions, and able to engage creatively with new possibilities that are present when we're free from old habits. So I think that's what we want to. That's our intention is with this, and I think that's what we'll get today with our conversations that we're going to have with both Anita and with Andrew.
And just to remind us all, nobody ever forgets this. I know it's on the tip of your tongue, but to remember that our wonderful work at Pachamama Alliance is to bring forth an environmentally sustainable, spiritually fulfilling, socially just human presence on this planet. And there couldn't be a more apt mission than that for this time. And that we can draw from Indigenous wisdom, people like Archon and Minari and Domingo and our Indigenous partners and Pat McCabe and Anita, actually, to really bring forth from the ancient wisdom as well as the long-term future, the environmentally sustainable, the new dream, the environmentally sustainable, spiritually fulfilling, socially just human presence on this planet. So why don't you, I'll just begin with saying that it's my privilege and honor to introduce our board member, Anita Sanchez. And there's so many things to say about her, but she's become very famous because she wrote a book. She's been interviewing wise elders for the last few years. And she's written one of the most compelling and beautiful books that's around right now. And it's an internationally famous book now. It actually has won all kinds of awards. It's a bestseller. And it's called The Four Sacred Gifts, Indigenous Wisdom for Modern Times. And if you had to write a book to prepare people for what's going on right now, it would be this book. Anita had the forethought, the wisdom, the access from her community, from her Mexican American community, and living with Indigenous people as well in her childhood. She's a facilitator of the Awakening Dreamer program. She's trained 400 facilitators, a lot of you probably. She's a journey leader, and she's on the board of directors of Pachamama Alliance. And it's my honor to introduce and reintroduce and reaffirm our love for our colleague and partner, Anita Sanchez. So Anita, what does Indigenous wisdom and ancient wisdom and wisdom of the elders have to say about the times we're living in right now?
Am I unmuted now? Yes, there I am. Oh, yes, I want to start with just asking, I believe you're already there with that beautiful setting, acknowledging the sacred space. But I'm growing up with my second grandmother and my mother when they shared with us both the wisdom that was coming through to them as well as the other elders. They always ask us to now, as you breathe, listen with the softest part of your ear and listen with an expanding heart. So I ask that of each of you, as we continue, not only during this hour, but just for us to remember to do that. It's a different way of being, and then our doing changes from that. The elders I've been talking to, I was, like many of you, the work just all got canceled when all of this began happening. And that causes concern, obviously, and a lot of uncertainty. However, the thing that I was really, really disappointed in is the many Indigenous gatherings of elders from all over the world that were happening. But lo and behold, everything is sacred, and this technology is too. So we've been having the opportunity to continue to meet. And I've been in discussions with a Sami elder from South Africa, from elders from Kyrgyzstan, from Alaska, all over Latin America, Hawaii, all over the America, Canada, the US. And I want to just give a little bit of the patterns of what I'm hearing. All have their, yes.
Let me interrupt you. There's a lot of static. I just want to acknowledge that. I don't know what, we didn't have that before when we did our little test.
No, we didn't.
So I don't know if there's anything to do about it. We can understand you. We can hear you. I just want to acknowledge, because people are saying in the chat there's a lot of static, and we know that. I don't know what to do about it. But if everybody can just bear with it. She's got a lot of good stuff to say, and I know we can hear it through the static. That's the universe saying yes to Anita.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I apologize for that. I don't know what, it didn't do it before. So, but what I want to share is that the elders are all saying that they have their different medicine and different ceremonies. However, in the various prophecies that help guide our lives, some of them hundreds and hundreds of years old, and some of them as young as 40 years, all of it had been telling us to tell the people that we're in the 11th hour. But of course, as you all know, it is no longer that. We are in it. We are in it. The time is now. The day is now. The months are now. The year is now. And we're all being called to acknowledge that we're part of this hoop of life. I want to share a little bit about the Hopi prophecy, because many of the elders from different parts of the world share this prophecy, as well as the Maori from New Zealand. So at this time, what we're being told to do is to know your garden, create your community, be good to each other. It is time to speak the truth. Do not look outside yourself for the leader. There is a great river flowing very swiftly. There will be those who are afraid, and they'll try to hold on to the shore, suffering greatly, feeling that they are torn apart by the waters. But we must now let go of the shore and go to the middle of the river. With your head above the water and eyes open, the river has its destination. Our job is to see those who are nearby, perhaps 6 feet away, and celebrate that they're here. You are taken in the flow. In these times, we can't take things personally, least of all ourselves. Whenever we do, caution, the elder said, from the different directions, for our spiritual growth will halt. Banish the word struggle from your attitude and your vocabulary. All that we do must be done now in a sacred manner and in celebration. And please hear, as you hear that, it doesn't mean that we deny that we're human beings and that we have emotions and fear. And we do acknowledge the suffering, but it's to understand that we're in something greater that is changing at this time. The virus, as the various elders have discussed and talked about, is that it's not a punishment. It really hurts the hearts of so many, as we're in ceremony, to see writings about that this is some kind of anger being done. Mother Earth loves us all. And so I agree with Archon and what all we're hearing in ceremony. Mother Earth, Father Sky, this was not happening to us. This is happening for us. So the observation of the universe across a number of the elders is basically we're experiencing a realignment of a disrupted natural order. We had forgotten. We had been caught in our busyness and our desire for growth, this illusion of separateness. And so from that has been hate and division in every realm that we can think of, and destruction of the earth and our biosphere. The universe has awakened, and we as part of the universe are awakening to this either or, this dualistic way of thinking, and to stop that, to connect our hearts, our minds, our hands, the ecosystem that each one of us are, that's part of the larger ecosystem, is to be mindful of that. We are evolving at a pace that's really hard to keep up with. And as the different elders, we share different parts of our ceremonies and songs as we're together. The thing that, and it was great suffering. In Latin America, there's also dengue fever they're dealing with. There's so much. So again, never to belittle that. However, it's not to spiral downward in that, but rather to look at, we have chosen to be here. The human story is incomplete. And that's what we're co-creating now. We're not waiting to co-create. We're doing it in every moment and every breath. And that, in the midst of the uncertainty of it, what I would say, and seeing the different elders and even seeing myself, is that it's difficult to not have a smile from ear to ear because there's such great joy in the midst of this. And we as leaders get to hold all of that. And as Oren Lyons, a Seneca elder, would say, as a leader must never, ever lose hope. Never take away the hope of the people. And so these sessions on Monday are so powerful. And of course, Pachamama Alliance would bring this forward because this is a time for us to draw on resilience from our ancestors, not just our indigenous ancestors. All human beings have ancestors who have done great suffering and they made it through, and we're here. And that strength is in us, and it's calling forth for us to be and do what we are to be and do at this time. Joshua, my timer messed up, so you have to give me some signals, like 3, 2, whatever it is left. I'm sorry about that. So, but if you would, so I know how much time I have. I want to also just let you know that part of my contribution in giving to the elders is the holding of the Hopi Prophecy. So when Lynn talked about this amazing book and I was at the right time and all, it's the Hopi Prophecy. It's these prophecies are at the right time because the earth itself and all our two-legged, winged, all the ancestors, all our relatives are here to support us. So I want to share those 4 gifts that already are inside of all of us and invite you, as Spirit told the 27 elders who built the hoop with 100 eagle feathers back in 1994, they were called. 27 elders responded to the call from all over the world. And they put the eagle feathers on this hoop. They prayed, sang, chanted, meditated, all in the various languages. And then at the end of that, they placed 4 gifts from each of the directions. The 4 gifts are the power of unity. Unity, it will take all of us to create the thriving world for all our relatives. The second gift is the power of hope, hope in action. And we know hope is an energy source. I'm going to come back to those 2 if there's time. The third gift is the power to forgive the unforgivable. And the 4th gift is the power of healing. And these 4 gifts, when I received them back in 95, I was in a place that I just wanted to give up about diversity, inclusion, and corporations, and all these different things that were just going, and racism, all these things. And I received those gifts, and it went right through to my heart, and I realized, Anita, use these. And I since have, of course, when I decided to write the book, found those elders who were still alive and asked them, how did you decide on these 4? And they looked at me like, Anita, Spirit told us. That's how we knew these 4. There's no question. And I was like, okay. They said, well, we understand. You have a PhD, so there's that part of you that has to ask the why. But the reality is these gifts are in us, so use them. So we've been seeing the gift of unity. It's so powerful, the things that are happening. Bicycle parades to let little kids not miss their 4th or 5th birthday, right? Doesn't that just bring you such joy when you see that? We see businesses now popping up all over. I can't keep track of it. How many businesses are, instead of even the ones that are saying we're going to lay off half the workforce, the other employees are coming forward and say, please, no, get all of us half time. Don't lay anybody off. This unity it's just so strong what's coming through. For our Indigenous people, one of the things that came out of Canada that we're listening all over the world, there's some 138,000 now watching, it's called Social Distancing Powwow. If you want to have a hit of some beautiful music and dancing at this time, to go, how could this be? I mean, we're in these crazy times. How can we be so joyful? Because we're meant to be at this time. We're meant to celebrate our resilience and our ability to have hope. So last couple of words that I want to say in terms of hope. Hope is something. You will find writers now, actually for some decade, who have been saying, hope, get rid of that. That's just Pollyanna. That's good. But that's not true. Hope is an energy source. It's part of our sacredness. It's beyond the five senses. It's how so many creations, innovations have come through. It's because of that hope, that energy. And so I ask you, the elders are so happy that they're dreaming like crazy. They're just dreaming, waking dreams, sleeping dreams, intentional dreams, asking for the ancestors, for the beings of the earth, the winged ones and all, to bring the dreams, to allow to be the vessels come through of the positive, the most positive possible future. That's the energy where we need to put. You know, that's where we are meant to create the world that's thriving and works for all of us. And then I just want to say in closing that the other two gifts, I'm not going to go in depth about, the forgiving the unforgivable and the gift of healing. They're very critical. And what I will share with you is that we may have good intention because we've been on this journey for so long, understanding we're part of one world, not two worlds, not developed, not undeveloped. We are one hoop of life. However, even with good intention, our ability to be in unity with all our relatives, our ability to dream the most positive possible future and have our actions follow that will be limited to the degree that we have not forgiven, that we have not drawn on that gift. To find that forgiveness is not about forgetting mistreatments and hurts, big ones and little ones, generational ones, but rather it is a pathway to our own divinity. It's a pathway to freedom, to choose to use our energy for what is now and to create for 7 generations out, rather than using up our energy for the resentment, pain, hurts, and mistreatment of something that did or did not happen. So it doesn't mean forgetting. It may be that many of you that are listening are part of changing the systems and structures that have caused that kind of pain. So it doesn't, as we come into this new way of being, but we do that out of the vision that pulls us rather than out of pain that hurts us. And healing is just such a great gift. Even an hour before I came on, I shared with Lynn, oh my gosh, I was so up and then dropped. All of a sudden this place, a friend of mine's brother-in-law has died about 5 days ago. And I just hit in some way. And I allowed that. It's not about suppressing it or denying it. It's like, look at that. And what's underneath all of that is love. And so that just caused me even more like, okay, I'm ready to go. Use these gifts. Keep meeting with the elders. Have that wisdom in any way that I can part of taking this wisdom out and pointing people back to them in different parts of the world. That gives me great joy because this wisdom is not only ancient, it is today's wisdom, it is tomorrow's wisdom. Time is circular, not linear. So I'm just really grateful for you giving me the opportunity to talk to my people, all of you. It's beautiful, a number of you I know, and the others I can't wait to meet in person one day. But I know in my heart and with the softest part of my ear that you are being in a way and doing in a way that is life-giving. And for that, I'm forever grateful.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anita.
Gosh, thank you,
Wow.
Anita. That was wonderful. So the next one of our brilliant, esteemed board members that you're going to get to experience is Andrew Hewitt. And Andrew has been on the board for about 3-4 years now, almost 4 years. Andrew's actually speaking to us from Australia. He's a Canadian citizen, been living in the United States. Andrew's an educator and an entrepreneur. He created an organization called Game Changers 500, which was aimed at transforming business in the United States, or around the world, transforming businesses that had already committed to making a difference with their missions. That was called Game Changers 500. Andrew comes to our board meetings and he's always got new ideas that he's experiencing because he's part of a network of young entrepreneurs, technologists, people in the technology world who are all engaged in the question of how do we build the new system, the new structures that we need as a society to survive and thrive. I think of some of you recently have probably seen this adage that's been reported that in times of breakdowns, these are also huge times of opportunity. And the opportunities that show up often are related to the ideas that just happen to be lying around. Those ideas aren't just lying around. Those are ideas that have been curated and thought through and really presented in a way that makes them accessible to the times. And I experienced Andrew and his group that he's been working for the last several years in preparation for this time, because they've been working and developing really insightful, skillful ideas, how technology, how a re-understanding of how we are as human beings, how we can work together economically and socially can actually provide the pathway to a new future. So Andrew's a huge contribution to us on the board when he brings that to us. And I really am excited to hear what Andrew has to say from Australia for our group today. So welcome, Andrew.
Thank you so much, Bill, for that wonderful introduction. And Anita, wow, we're so lucky to have you as a source of elder wisdom. Yeah, it's quite the moment we're in. And for all of those in the Pachamama Alliance community, I think it's a moment that we felt was coming. It's the time that we knew in our hearts was part of our life to experience. And in a strange way, I feel a sense of relief in that we can get on with the change we know is required. And it's not to discount in any way the real suffering and struggle people are experiencing now. And my heart goes out to all of those who, in a way, are part of the sacrifice to allow humanity to go through this shift. And yeah, Bill, as you were saying, I'm going to say the exact quote. It's actually by Milton Friedman, of all people. It's that only a crisis, actual or perceived, produces real change. When that crisis occurs, the actions that are taken deeply depend on the ideas that are lying around. That, I believe, is our basic function: to develop alternatives to existing policies, to keep them alive and available until the politically impossible becomes politically inevitable. And so as a community, as the Pacha people, we've been building ideas that are now laying around for over 20 years. And it's really communities like this that I feel are now being called to duty. And I'm seeing it within my close work colleagues and different networks I'm a part of, including the Pachamama Alliance, where it's just like there's a readiness now to implement some of these ideas that they haven't had the context to fully be implemented. And I think that is so worth celebrating. And just to give a little bit more context to that, if you look at the levels of change that are really called for in all sectors. So if we take, for instance, government, we have this partisan system that, it's always a one side versus the other side. And we can feel it's so obvious there's aspects of this system that just don't work. I mean, politicians are bought. We're putting all of our power in a very small group of people. And then this type of crisis comes and it's revealed even more fully, especially in America. It's just there's not the level of dynamic response that we could otherwise have if people were more in their sovereignty, if people were more empowered to actually self-organize on their own. And so a crisis like this gives this context for us to actually be called to duty, to actually experiment with ideas that have been lying around in terms of how we can actually govern and organize ourselves in a completely different way, not just relying on big government. And I think that's beautiful, and we're starting to be able to actually test those types of ideas. Or if you look at education, I mean, there's a lot of people that have called for education reform, and now you have all these kids at home in a place where now parents are forced to actually re-look at education and get their hands dirty in learning what it actually takes to educate their children, and what do they want to be educating their children in. And all the people who've been experimenting with homeschooling models, who are typically the pioneers kind of reimagining education or getting the spotlight and being able to actually influence not just a small group of early adopters, but actually nations at large. Or healthcare, right? We have clearly a complete dysfunction in our healthcare system that's now being brought to the masses. And people are learning about Ayurveda, they're learning about more natural ways to take care of themselves, they're learning about the limitations of our lack of actual health insurance and what it would take to actually solve those problems. And those ideas laying around are now getting the spotlight, getting to be able to share these revolutionary ideas that now have a context to exist. And of course, the same is also true in business, that everything's on pause. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people going out of business, but there's also this tremendous creativity that's happening as people sit in quarantine, right? Reflecting on like what's theirs to do, rather than just going into the office every day and kind of repeating the same pattern. People are getting this tremendous break to actually take a moment to stop and think, like, what's theirs to do? What's their heart calling them to do? And I've been watching this in different communities I'm a part of, people who were like lifeless. They were just kind of in that like daily routine, now being lit up, and you can feel them, and they're alive for the first time in a long time. And I think that is so beautiful and so worth celebrating, that this moment is allowing the game changers of our time to have a context in which we can actually experiment on a much different scale. Now, one of the most inspiring examples to me is with universal basic income, where we're recognizing now that the whole system is stopped. People need their basic needs met. And so it's forced the situation in which the government's now needing to cut checks and actually figure out how to deposit those checks and how to do that over a longer period of time. It's essentially a beta test of a version of a universal basic income. And so now we can move out of the political debate of should we do this, should we not do this, to just, it's actually just happening. And those with those ideas laying around are getting a chance. And I know some of them, and they're being called to some of the highest levels of leadership to actually bring these ideas in and use technologies like blockchain to be able to distribute decision-making and resources in a way that just previously wasn't on the radar of the mainstream. And for that, I celebrate. And I want to just end with these terms we've used as Pachamama Alliance around awakening the dreamer, changing the dream, and changing the game. I mean, they're so relevant now. Like, to really take a moment to reflect on the power of these terms. Like, what does it mean to awaken the dreamer? Well, here we're in a moment where fear is rampant. You know, fear is part of the Maya, the illusion, the thing that keeps us separate from each other, separate from the truth of our oneness, separate from the truth of love. And so here we're in this grand initiation, right? Where we get tested of, can we stay awake in the dream? Can we help awaken the other dreamers in this moment, not to get pulled into the fog of fear, but to actually stay with hearts open, with courage online? and then to change the dream can only change from that place of being awake in it, like the lucid dreamer who's actually from a new vantage point, from a new worldview or consciousness, is allowing some new energy to actually inform the dream. And that's therefore the game change, right? To actually change the game, we need to first change ourselves. We need to be that awake dreamer. And so for years, we've wanted to change the game, yet we're so often dealing with an asleep system. And so I feel this is the grand initiation to really collectively wake up, and allow a whole new paradigm to emerge. And that, I believe, is the moment that we're in now. And it's a moment that will have tremendous pain, and it will have also tremendous innovation, as crisis is the soil for innovation. And here we go.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you,
Wow.
Andrew.
Oh my God. Wow. Okay. Well, we're going to give all of you a chance to share in a moment, but I have just a couple of things that I want to say. That there's another wonderful leader in our board named Reb D. She was on our call last week, and she quotes, I think, Michael Beckwith when she says this. She says, "Pain pushes until vision pulls." I want to say that again. Pain pushes until vision pulls. And I think there's a real power in that phrase for right now, that there's a lot of pain, and it's pushing us through like a period of grief, a period of isolation, a period of all kinds of withdrawal. When we're willing to vision, it'll pull us in the right direction, rather than pain, just wanting to stop the pain and go back to what we used to call normal. If we can be pulled forward by the vision that Andrew's talking about, we have a beautiful, awesome, unpredicted, but incredibly profound opportunity to move towards the vision, the new dream that Pachamama's been talking about all this time, and to change the game, like literally change the game. So we're going to give you a chance to share. You can raise your hand. I think most of you know how to do that on your screen there. And then Josh will unmute you and let me know who to call on, probably, unless I can figure that out. And I'm going to give you just a question to answer, and you can say whatever you want. But how does ancient wisdom that Anita was talking about, ancient wisdom, how is that flowing through you? And how is a new vision pulling you? Maybe in your own personal life, for the way you live, or maybe in the world around you. You know, we can't go outside, so we're all going inside. Let's inside of who we are. So how is ancient wisdom informing you, and how is a new dream envisioning pulling you forward, or whatever else you'd like to share? So raise your hand and we'll call on you. Let's see, let's start with Judy. Can you unmute Judy Barreto, please? And she's actually on the call.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Excellent. So ancient wisdom, I think one of the biggest things is just the fact that everything has come down to a more simplified. We removed all of the distraction and the things that just clutter our brains and pull us away from what's really true within us, and the unity that we have within us to connect with not only our personal self, but with other humans and humans all over the world, and the nature, because it's all connected. And so what I feel that this has done is it's really, for lack of a better word, awakened us to new opportunities, to really just dig in deep, because we are very deep, and to be able to share with one another what we have learned and what we continue to learn, and to progress forward in a way to unify even more people that might be on the outlying. And I'm talking about outliers, not like the indigenous peoples, but the outliers of the people that have been so caught up in materialism and everything like that. Like, we can say, like, hey, you know, this is an opportunity to, let me show you something. Let me show you how I do some sustainable things. And let me tell you about an organization I'm involved with that really resonates deep within you and quenches that thirst deep within that is constantly distracted by the flash in the pan of an overconsumption culture that's bred on greed and destruction. So that's all I have to share. Thank you for this phone call. It's wonderful. And I'm looking forward to hearing more from other people as well.
Thank you so much, Judy. I'm going to ask if you guys and gals can sort of do your sharing in 30 seconds or somewhere in there, that so we can make room for people. And thank you, Judy, for getting us started. Ash, can you open the line for Ash Pharma, please, Josh? Okay, hi.
Oops.
Oh, not yet. Unmute Ash, please, Josh.
Yeah, it looks
Okay.
like your audio isn't set up, so it's not giving me the option to unmute you. Let's
You
try
unmute
something.
yourself, Ash, maybe?
Better go on.
Okay, I'm gonna come back to you, Ash. Sorry about that. We'll go on to Cliff. Can you unmute Cliff? And then we'll see if Ash can join us later. Okay, Cliff.
Yeah, I want to just thank everybody, and thank you particularly, Lynn and Bill, for doing this. I've had the experience the last few days of the opportunity and the blessing, actually, of listening to the ancient wisdom from the Native community, the indigenous communities. And I recognize that these are voices I needed to hear. That it was, you know, I literally am experiencing that coming together that's predicted with the condor and the eagle. I literally having that experience, and it's like a whole body experience. It's deep within me. I was on a call the other night that Josh invited me to, and then hearing Anita speak, and you know, it's just been all around me. I really needed to hear those voices. You know, it doesn't come from the world I live in a way. You know, I'm used to the Western thing, you know, and so I'm just really grateful for that, and an opportunity to, now for us to like be still and really not just hear those voices, but kind of live within them for a while. You know, bounce off the walls to my room and share them with my grandchildren and the other people I'm in communication with, and so like reflect and reflect and reflect and reflect and experience, and just thank you for doing this, and thank you for being this opening where that wisdom can come through, and I have the chance to be present to it.
Thank you, Cliff. Thank you so much. Okay, I'm going to go next to, I don't know the name because all I can see is email, but RIYALL1. Rial?
That's me. That's me. Sorry, my name didn't appear. I'm Richard Isle.
Hi, Richard.
Hi, Lynn and Bill, and thank you. I've been involved with Pachamama Alliance for a few years now. I'm very grateful that I've been able to go to a lot of events, and I'm involved with the community here in Fresno, California. We have a great group going. In fact, we are going to be start having some meetings on Zoom. So we are finding a way to adapt. That is something that Indigenous people have done very well. I'm just very grateful that everybody here is doing this, and the whole planet is doing this. We are all one. We're all doing this. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Richard. Now to Danielle, please. Danielle Morgan. Hi.
Hi, everyone. Hi. So I feel like I've been working towards this for the last 5 years. I quit my job 5 years ago when I woke up one day and I felt like my soul was dying, and I needed something more in my life. And I was working for one of the most funded tech startups in Europe. And I decided to take all my skills and recycle them and use them for social justice, environmental impact and change. And currently at the moment, I'm experiencing an incredible spiritual awakening, which has been inspired by many people's work who are here on this call. So thank you for that. What I'm currently getting up a lot of is stop and rest, because there's more to come, and it's a marathon, not a race. No, wait, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And there's something in August I know that I'm particularly called to, and it's something related to the moon. I don't know exactly what that is yet, but the talk of unity is just striking a lot with me. So thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Danielle. Let's go next to Jesse.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for this call. It's so good. I think what I think Pachamama, I'm realizing that I couldn't even have heard these conversations and seen this virus as an opportunity without having been associated with Pachamama over all these years. It's just so fundamentally shifted my whole thinking in so many ways. And I feel like I'm using this as an opportunity to embody all the things that Anita was talking about in terms of unity, hope, forgiveness, and healing. I've been reconnecting with people using this time. I've been trying to complete things where there were breakdowns in our relationships. I wanted to say one thing, and that is like, I think this is an opportunity. It's not a given that we're going to shift everything and that everything is going to be different when we get back to quote unquote normal. And somebody wrote in an email something that I thought was really powerful that I thought I'd share. And she said, "The world we foster now is the world we will return to when this is all over." So I think it's kind of up to us to take this opportunity, and it's not, we need to manifest what we want to manifest. It's not a given. So I just wanted to share that perspective.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jesse. Let's see, we're going to run out of time here. So see if you can keep it a little bit shorter. Margaret, you're next.
Great. So, yes, I went to a sort of a meeting yesterday around community land trusts, which is about how to sort of shift things so that communities and people own things, including businesses and stuff. So it's referring to how the time is right now to start making these shifts. But what I learned yesterday was that all of these things take so much grassroots effort. But now is the time when people are interested to start organizing in ways that people can listen because they are more ready. And so I do think it's, it's not going to happen overnight. We've got to work with this. And a lot of the social change movements take time. But now is a great time to engage people. So that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. And I'm going to go next to Howard Friend. Hi, Howard. Oops. There he is.
Okay, I've got something in front of my face. I have a collection of quotes in me that have a way of coming forward when they're needed. And I have one that's from a maybe a mutual friend, Parker Palmer. He said, "How could we live in this world and not be heartbroken?" But hearts break in two ways. They break down and they break open. So it's time when heartbrokenness is tempting, we can be open-hearted. Thank you.
Thank you, Howard. Great, actually great closing for our sharing. Thank you so much, all of you. Thank you for those of you who have your hand up and didn't get called on. Thank you, all of you, for your texts, your chats, your beautiful spirits. It's like a community of great souls, Pachamama Alliance. Bill, anything you want to say to, I have a couple of announcements, but then.
Okay. Well, the one thing that every time we have these conversations, the thing that comes up for me is when we're thinking of what's new and we're looking at what's new, we're actually, that idea of how do you pay for it is no longer, which normally shuts down possibility. We can see now that how do you pay for it is not even a valid concern. It's not a question for a society, for a world that can just allocate resources. Universal basic income is one idea that we can see that can just be implemented out of our commitment. So for me, it's seeing that question is irrelevant, opens up a whole lot more creativity and inspires creativity from all of us. So I'm always noticing that and want to keep reminding myself of that.
Well, and then that other thing that you said, I want to say it, but you can say it better than I. You pointed out that we've put life ahead of the economy. We shut down the economy for life. That's like, who would have thought we would ever do that? Sacrifice the economy for saving a life. And that's like, wow.
Yeah.
You say it your way.
Well, yes, I think that's unusual that we've done that. But when you really look deeply at it, you see that because whose lives are at risk are all of us. Wealthy people, powerful people are at risk also. And I think there's something we'll see. We'll learn about it, why we've reacted that way and why we don't react when it's poor people in other parts of the world whose lives are at risk. We don't put the economy at risk. So there's a teaching and an observation that's useful to us. But in all of it, I think, is the recognition that the question, but how are you going to pay for it, is not valid. It's simply a way that power protects itself from things getting out of control and lots of things being supported that power doesn't want to have supported. And it's just useful for us to look at that as we're looking at what we want coming out of this.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, well, I wanted to let you all know that next week, Monday of next week, Tuesday in Australia, Andrew, but Monday in our part of the world, we're going to have Charles Eisenstein on for the whole hour. And Charles, as you know, is part of our work, a great ally. He's, of course, been in our symposium. He appears in Game Changer Intensive, I believe, and maybe even in Drawdown, I don't know. But anyway, he's one of the great thinkers of our time, as you all know, I think, and he'll be with us next Monday, April 13th, and he's really looking forward to it. And if you haven't read his current thinking on the virus, he wrote a very provocative and insightful paper. If you just go to his website, Charles Eisenstein, and maybe read that if you're going to be on the call, on this Zoom call next week, that would be a wonderful thing to prepare you for a great conversation with Charles. And then we're at Pachamama Alliance having sacred space every day at noon Pacific time. We open sacred space for 10 minutes, and you can go to the website to find out how to join into that, to just remind us, as Indigenous people have taught us, that sacred space is always open, but when we ask to open sacred space, it nourishes our lives, our work, our day, our night. And then, of course, as you know, the Pachamama Alliance programs, I know Awakening the Dreamer is always available. Game Changer Intensive has just started, the new one. But if you have taken it 4, 5, 6 times, take it again. And then a Drawdown, I was thinking about, I read in a report from Stanford that the pollution over China now is so arrested, so cleared, that the number of people's lives who have been saved by the clearing up of the air is 77,000 lives in China from the clearing of pollution, which is, those people would have died from respiratory diseases, which is way more people's lives saved than people died from the virus. So NASA and Stanford University have a partnership looking at the amount of lives that are being saved by the withdrawal of activity and overconsumption is way greater than the number of people dying from the virus. And then I want to remind us all that people are being born. There's 4 people born, new babies born every second, 250 babies being born each minute, 15,000 new human beings, new souls coming in every hour, and 360,000 new souls being born every single day. We're so heavily focused on deaths and illness, and thousands and thousands and thousands of people every day are recovering from the virus. So we've got a lot of statistics we can look at, and those are statistics too that are as important as the ones that are so scary. And then finally, you want to say something else? No, finally, I just want to thank you all for being on this, on these Zoom Monday gatherings, and stay home, stay safe, stay calm, stay well. We love you. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Great being with you.
Bye,
everybody.
Bye. Oh, that's right. Everyone.
Beautiful, beautiful people.
Cheers. Bless the water.
You guys.
Yeah, let's do that.
Everyone. Be with everybody.
Blessings.